Hello everyone. Hi, Erica. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna from GreenGeeks, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, 7 Must-Have Elements to Make Your Website Amazing by our guest speaker, Rhonda Negar. I will introduce Rhonda in a moment, but glad to have you here, Rhonda.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you both.
Nice to meet you. So real quick, I want to say a couple of words about GreenGeeks for those of you who are not familiar with us. We're a 300% green energy web hosting provider, which essentially means that we put back 3 times the amount of power we consume into the grid in the form of renewable energy. We have been recognized by the US EPA since 2009 as a green power partner, and we offer share hosting, reseller hosting, VPS, and dedicated servers. So now moving on to our webinar, a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions for Rhonda, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A. And you can also chat in the chat room. Just select everyone if you want everybody to see what you're discussing. And as always, we are recording this. So if you have to step away, don't worry. We will send you the recording in a couple of days. And as you see in the chat room, it will be available also on our channel, YouTube channel. Also, today we have enabled live transcription. So if you have the ability to enable it for yourself during the webinar by going to live transcript and then show subtitles. So that's for the webinar, little bit of rules. And then I'm going to introduce our GreenGeeks team today. Erica Barbosa will be assisting us in the chat and Q&A. Hi, Erica. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, Anna. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Barbosa. I am from Costa Rica. Today, I'm going to be assisting in the chat and reading your comments. I hope you enjoyed today's with Rhonda. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Erica. Before I give like the webinar to Rhonda, I'm going to say a few words about Rhonda. So Rhonda Negar founded Fat Dog Creatives in 2003. And after marrying her soldier in 2009, she began life of deployment moves and career in the backseat. She started as a freelancer, and then in 2015, she transitioned to learning what it means to be a full-time business owner, focusing on who she really wants to serve, and diving further on into design thinking. In 2020, she added adjunct faculty at the Art Institute of San Antonio, Texas, to her resume while doing client work to help the next generation and those transitioning to a second career learn and refine technical skills and expand their creative horizons. Rhonda is now settled in San Antonio, but frequently turns to Seattle and Bethesda, where she has friends and clients. Rhonda, welcome. Would you like to say hi and then dive into the presentation?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a while since I've been a guest host on a show, so I'm a little nervous about all the webinar stuff. I mean, I've done it before, but you know, it's been a while.
It's okay.
But I'm really excited. I packed in so much value in here. I am concerned that I will go long, so you guys will let me know if I'm going too long today.
We absolutely will. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, can everybody see the screen?
We can.
Okay, great. So as Anna mentioned, we're going to cover 7 elements that will help you help your website amaze and delight your potential clients so you can grow your business, because that's what we're ultimately here for. And the simple fact is that it just doesn't matter how good we are at what we do that leads to success. The winners are the ones who can really connect with their clients and make the sales. So we're going to cover some elements that you may not know that you're missing. And for some of you, might be reminders. That's okay. We all need reminders, which is why you're going to hear me say we a whole lot, because I'm trying to remind myself, Rhonda, you need to check and make sure you're doing all these things too. All right. And this is my dog, Clisby. Yes, Fat Dog Creatives is named after my dogs, not this one. the dogs that it was named and the logo was designed after, they've long passed. But Clisby's our new mascot, and he's a golden doodle. He is not the one pushing the buttons, though. It's me. So he's not going to be part of this presentation after this slide, just so you know. I did start with learning code in the mid-90s. I learned HTML, and I built my first website on, those of you who've been around a little while, you might remember Angel Fire, Tripod, GeoCities, I think was one. And back then, that time frame was called Web 0.0, and apparently now they call it, we're in 2.0, which just means that we've not only realized that there's a need for more than just like images and text on a page, it's more than just a calling card or business card. We are expecting dynamic content, an active online presence, and instant communications with more than just emails. So now we're using texting and group chats, things like Slack. Voice over IP is commonplace. That's what we used to call it way back then. So a lot has changed, which means there's a lot to keep up with. So our goals for today, we have all these tools at our disposal, but decision fatigue and overwhelm is a real thing, and it's paralyzing. So we're just going to cover 7 of the most important features that you might need to address on your website to draw attention and maintain some interest and cultivate relationships that could lead to those sales. This will help keep us focused. There are many more tips and tricks out there that you can add, but should you? Also, we have to start with one step at a time, so it's best to stay focused. So let's just focus on these 7 that we're going to talk about today. By the way, I actually do think cats are cute, but there is no denying that even among cat lovers, cats do have a little bit of an attitude, and they don't really care about pleasing their humans all the time. So that's why you're going to see a lot of tongue-in-cheek, poking some fun at being a cat, and we all want to be more like the dog. Again, I do think cats are cute. But dogs are so excited when we get home, right? Oh, we love to see them, like their little smiley faces. Some of them actually do smile, and if they've not been trained, they'll jump up on you, and we like that. We just love that they get excited when we've walked out of the house for 5 seconds and walk back in. That feels like an eternity to them. And we want to leave people with that kind of feeling that we are excited that they're here, that we are interested in them, and that we can't wait to communicate with them in some other way in the future. So we want to make that first impression great, just like the dogs, even when they've stepped out to check the mail. And we want to cultivate that connection by providing some value and being curious and listening. So the byproduct of all this is that we're generating leads in a genuine way, so that ultimately we make sales and we can run our business. So if we're frustrated, then whatever it is we have been doing isn't working. So let's restart and set our websites up for success, right? There are a lot of tips and reminders again in here that you're gonna, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's okay. Again, this is just as much a reminder for me as it is for you. And I mentioned we have some goals. Here are the 7 questions that we're going to answer, but we need to ask ourselves, do visitors know what problems we solve for them? Do visitors know what to do, like the next steps to move forward with us? Are we providing real value? Can visitors easily scroll through our site? What's our website social media experience? That one can get a little confusing. That's not my total expertise. There's some overlap with me and my often business partner, Bridget. We're not technically business partners, so we collaborate a lot together. But a lot that I've learned from her and vice versa. So there's some overlap. If you haven't watched the webinar with her, I strongly advise you to go back and watch that. It was really good. And then, am I sharing success stories to build trust? And am I consistent with my message and how I share it? So first of all, do visitors know what problem we solve? This is where we talk about headlines. So it's kind of odd, but we're not really in business to sell things because nobody wants those things. What they want is what it solves for them. It's what these things do or allow that matters. So putting it simply, people care about easing their pains. They want to save time. They want to save money. They want to make more money. So if our services save time and frustration so they can use that time to spend with money-making tasks, they're likely going to want it. And we need to be clear about that, and that's what we provide, not the website itself. For example, we are saying, hey, look, you need a website. You don't want to have to learn all these different platforms. We can save you that time by doing it for you, right? They just want to know that we understand their frustrations. Maybe we've even been there and done that and have a solution for relief. We need to clearly show we can solve their problems. Maybe we can even list them somewhere, or something in some way that's not like a bulleted list. You know, we can still list out their frustrations without doing bullet points. The key here is to understand what the end result of using our product or service is, which means the dreaded S word is going to come into play, because selling is the difference maker. So not many people love sales, and no one loves to be sold to. Sales bring up a lot of icky feelings for many of us. I'm pointing right at myself. But it is the lifeblood of our business, and all too often, it's not the one with the best product or the best skills who wins. It's the one who makes the sales. And as I mentioned before, people who make sales are people who are connecting with their site visitors or on social media, right? So this is why we have to be upfront and clear at the top of our website before the scroll, which is the updated version of Above the Fold from newspaper days. So we have to sell them on our solution to their problem. So do you know how to clearly write what your customers' problems are? Do you truly understand their struggles? What keeps them awake at night? Do they know what their choices are? Can you list their frustrations in some way? What is it that you're trying to sell? What are you actually selling? So again, I told the previous example was, I build websites, right? But maybe what I'm actually selling is time. I'm not really selling them website. Yes, that's how I'm going to give them time. But I'm selling them the opportunity to focus on other tasks while I tackle this one. So there's a simple solution. You can see it there: pain, dream, fix. People care about easing their pains, again, saving time and money. We want to articulate that some way. We also want to present the dream, what life will look like once that pain has been removed or eased. If you can't totally solve it, you at least can ease it, right? And then we present what the fix is. So if the pain dream method isn't working for you, but you still want to DIY it, you can grab a copy of Donald Miller's Story Brand, and that can help you, craft a great headline that you can be more clear about. Yeah, speaking of clear, I just tongue-tied myself with that one. But if you don't want to DIY your content, I don't blame you. I wrote my website, my content for years, and I still do, but I have hired writers who understand this and how to write for the web, because it is different. And then I might rewrite it a bit to kind of put it more in my words, but I have them make sense of all the words, because we tend to use a lot of words to describe what we do, what we offer, but everybody doesn't need to get in the weeds like we are, but we're too close to it. So often you just kind of, excuse the phrase, but word vomit onto a page. And then you meet with your writer and you go over your goals, and then they will distill that into still the essence of your message, but distill that into something simpler and clearer. And So again, if you don't want to DIY it, I don't blame you. You can hire someone like Todd Jones of Copyflight. He's also got a really good website copy frameworks. I don't know if that's still what he's calling it, but you guys can ask him about that. He's on Twitter as Todd E. Jones. And Bridget Willard, you can find her all over the internet. You just type in Bridget Willard. There's Warren Lane Nida and Todd at Tradecraft Writing. Those are just a few I've either worked with or have hired myself for my own business. And just keep those names in mind for when you are in the market. So a good example is the host of the webinar, GreenGeeks. I pulled up their website when I was preparing for this, and it is very clear how they're solving our problems. Well, yes, we need a web host, but I can see that it's fast and secure. Those are important to me, and eco-friendly. So they are presenting 3 ways that they might be different from their competitors. The greatest being eco-friendly. That's something not really discussed in this ecosystem, I guess we'll call it. You know, nobody really talks about that. So that is a really good differentiator. They're very clear. It's up front. I didn't have to scroll to get to it and see it. I know exactly what they want. So keep this in mind as a model. Do your visitors know what to do? So we know what you do, what you offer, what you solve for me, but do I know what to do next? So if we don't tell our site visitors what to do next, they won't know what to do at all, and they won't probably do anything, which means they'll leave and they'll find someone who is clear and makes their client journey easy and obvious. So a call to action doesn't need to be complicated. It's simply a button, and it needs to be, or text link, but it needs to be large and obvious, like high contrast. When I'm building out color palettes for clients, if they don't already have a brand color palette, I find what's the one that's got the most contrast, and I will usually put the 2 colors that contrast the most together and use those as the button and make it obvious and large. So again, you don't have to overthink it. Just maybe you want them to schedule a consultation. Schedule a consultation. That's what your button might say, right? Or get more info, like linking to your pricing documents, something like that, right? So we need to be direct, just like we are with the headline, on what the next step should be. And as Donald Miller says, if you confuse, you lose. And that's true. If we aren't clear about what to do next, they won't do it. So we literally want our site visitors to take an action. So we actually have to call them to act, which is what GreenGeeks has done on their website too. That button is green, is good contrast right there. It's got white text on top of it. I know exactly what they want me to do. They want me to get started right now. I know what I should expect on the other side of that button is information on, well, payment would probably come last, but on all the setup info that they need. It's obvious. I don't have to think. And that's what we want our visitors to not have to think. All right, so the next one is lead magnet. So lead magnet is or has a call to action with it, but it requires a lot more thought and setup. So that's why I gave it its own number 3. So for those of you wondering what is a lead magnet, well, they're like the smart approach to lead generation. Some people will call it bribe to subscribe offer. It's just a way to get visitor information, like their email address, in exchange for something that we give a value to them. So we can offer them anything that can be delivered immediately by email or link. If the lead magnet is appealing, then visitors will subscribe and we will earn leads. Whatever it is, it needs to provide real value and be relevant. And the days when people just simply, sign up for our newsletter are over, because nobody really wants to know what our newsletter is. They don't really care. But people do still want helpful activities and resources that get them closer to solving their problems. So lead magnets continue the conversation that we start with them on our website, but after they leave. So why use a lead magnet? Well, we're generating quality leads. We're providing value that kind of gives them a taste of what else they might get. It gets them engaged. They're also shareable, which, you know, gives it some legs, I like to say, so it can travel on its own. And it promotes us as the authority. So my favorite lead magnet information is actually from Amy Porterfield. Anybody who follows her, you probably have already heard this episode, but it's number 214. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Choosing the Right Lead Magnet for Your Audience. And I'm just going to quickly go over some, you know, pros and cons on what these are. So a cheat sheet or checklist, it's just a series of pages, and often usually short. It's easy to skim. It's a quick win for you and for them. Make sure it's easy for them to finish so that it is indeed a quick win for them. And that's really your goal. The faster you can get them to a win, the more that they're interested in going forward, but they also know and trust that you can help them get there because you've already done it with that one quick win. But again, you got to make sure it's full of value. The next one is the workbook. This one, you provide more information with like actionable steps, not just a checklist, but actionable steps that your potential clients might take to get ideas like out of their head and onto paper, which means they're more likely to get the results that they're looking for when they do these. It's a great opportunity to share resources like affiliate links, but the workbook is more of an investment of your time and effort and your potential customers. So there's not a quick win with this one. A guide is simply a narrative where you can lead your potential customers through a story and then stack value throughout. I have a guide on mine. I'm actually going to be talking with Amy Hall about reworking it because it doesn't get the traffic I think it deserves. But basically in this guide, I just use home analogies to educate people on all the different parts of a website and creating a website. So for instance, your domain name is like your street address. But if you go to here in Texas, we have counties, and the counties have plat maps, and you can get like the longitude and latitude of where your property is. But if you send that to somebody, unless they can enter in that stuff in Google Maps, they're not going to remember. They're not going to remember your address, but they might remember those, you know, 5 digits and a street name. So that's what a domain name is. And so I go through those kinds of things to kind of help make it easier. And that's a guide. Now, a video training or audio training as a freebie is a great idea. This is a great lead magnet, this video. And they're usually about 15 to 20 minutes. And it's an opportunity for them to see and hear you and get a taste of what it's like to work with you. Sometimes it's as simple as we like or don't like a personality, right? It doesn't always matter what the value is. If you're doing all this video stuff and I'm like, I get it now, you know, after reading pages, that makes a difference. So it helps bring you close to your potential customer because you can make that deeper connection with them. You really also get to see what their personality is like, but their teaching style, that's what it's really all about. And you don't always get that from a PDF or guide or workbook or anything else. So there's a lot of value in audio or video training. A challenge is fun. Those are usually for like 7 to 10 days, and you have them do like a specific task, and maybe they share their wins along the way. It helps engage them. The end game is, how do you want that person to feel at the end of the challenge? And so it takes some thought up front. The same with the quiz. It's going to take some time and thought up front, but everybody does love a quiz, right? Especially when you get those results, you get excited. And so that's another way to, while the setup isn't a quick win, depending on how you do your quiz, it could be a quick win for your potential client. So a quiz is a great idea. There's also a free course. This could be considered a free course, right? Depends on how you promote it and what all we would put into it. You want them to leave thinking, this was so good, I would have paid for it. So your audience gets a glimpse again of how you teach, your knowledge and skill set, what they might pay down the road for a more in-depth course or a different course. But again, this one is going to take some thought up front and a big investment of money and time. So when it comes to lead magnets, Amy Porterfield, she knows all. She's grown her online business exponentially in a decade's time. So definitely go check out her podcast if you haven't already. So the most common lead magnet is also the most common mistake. I found this on SEMrush and I was like, okay, this one, it does have a good headline, but also it's just to subscribe to, get their newsletter. And again, nobody really cares about our newsletter. Generally speaking, they don't care to stay up to date or get the latest news. So this is on SEMrush's site, but this is their example of what not to do. Because subscribers really need to be persuaded. We need to, again, offer something of value. And so I was working on another project with Bridget Willard, and she brought up Jason Resnick's website. And I was like, oh, that really is a good lead magnet. First of all, he's clear of what he's selling us. Want the best freelance clients? Yeah. And so you sign up and immediately you start getting a free course over a series of 5 emails. And by my actions, he has qualified me as a better client than just somebody subscribing from a newsletter. And this is an example of him practicing what he preaches. And so after I completed the form, I was redirected to this page, which tells me what my next steps are. It says, in about 5 minutes, head on over your inbox. I did just that, and it was already waiting for me. So since lead magnets continue the conversation with our visitors after they leave, we have to continue that in their inbox. So we do that with what's called a list manager or email marketing platform. And I know it's yet another thing to learn and integrate. That's my dog, by the way, that's Clisby, if you hear the scratching, to integrate into your setup. But it doesn't have to be complicated. Basically, we just need a form we can put on our homepage or landing page that collects the visitors' email addresses at a minimum, and then either sends them a file or page directly, a page to download, watch, listen, or emails, whatever. So most platforms have a code for their form that you can copy and paste into a section of your website wherever you want it. And that code means you don't have to, generally speaking, do any kind of fancy integration if you don't want to. It also means that there might be some, opportunities to customize, like the fonts and the colors and sizes and stuff. I use Mailchimp. Amy Hall, amyhall.biz is my go-to when I need help, because Mailchimp used to be simple, but they've added all these great features and it's a little less simple for me. There's also MailerLite, ConvertKit, Constant Contact, those. There's also one that you can purchase and install right into your WordPress dashboard called Groundhog, and I tested it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. They've also got a course you can take to get it all set up just right. But anything the Mailchimp can do, Groundhog can do as well. So it really just depends on which one works best for you and your needs. So from March of this year to April of this year, I just looked up the stats from StatCounter. 58.03% of traffic worldwide was on a mobile device. That's I'm sorry, I read that wrong. It's 58.03. Did I say 53? Mobile versus desktop usage stats show that more than 50% of B2B inquiries were made on a phone or tablet. More than 50% of B2B. I mean, B2C makes sense, but B2B, I was kind of surprised. And 65% of all digital media time is spent on mobile devices. So that means there are a lot of resources out there to help you look good on multiple devices, and it's a must. There are some that are free, there are some that had paid versions. My favorites are Lambda Test. I did their free version for a while, and I was like, okay, I need more. And I loved what I got, but I was like, I need to be able to do more communication with my team. So Lambda Test is a great one. It's a Lambda Test responsive checker. Then there's also Screenfly. That was great. I've had collaborators use that one with me as well. But it's important that it is mobile friendly. And what does that mean? It means it looks just as good, maybe not the same, but just as good and on a phone or tablet as it does on your desktop when you first look at it on the desktop. So usability. So it does need to be easy to use. Think about how many steps site visitors have to take to achieve whatever that you want them to achieve. If you're a restaurant, for example, you probably want your customer and potential customers to be able to quickly and easily browse your menu, right? Because, hey, your menu is what sets you apart, right? Thanks to COVID-19, the QR code has been revived and they're so convenient, but I'll tell you, not everyone trusts them. I don't, unless I made them. We never know where they'll take us. It could take us to a file, maybe the file's corrupt, could take us to a website, which is the most common use, or it could take us to a document on a website. And we never know. So we need to be able to trust them. So it's important that if you do use a QR code, and I'm not saying don't, but you need to make sure that right next to it, you're saying exactly what the action is going to be when they use it. So when they take that phone and put the picture, they know that it's going to go to this page and give you this information. They need to know that so they can trust it. Got to make sure I find my place. So ideally for accessibility, it would be a link to a web page with text next to the QR code. So setting up, I was going to talk about okay. So I'm sorry, images are coming up next. We'll come back to this one. So for a social setup, so we are talking about your website, but how you set up your website affects how you look on social. So are you getting the attention that you think you need on social media? Are you cultivating relationships? What's your website social experience? Business-wise, social media platforms are for targeted marketing more than like broad advertising. So socially, you can network with your friends, classmates, and colleagues, keeping yourself and them top of mind, and maintain those relationships. And we want to make sure that whatever we're sharing and posting online or commenting, that we're getting the most bang for our time and maybe our buck if we're spending anything. So we have to make sure that the setup is done right and optimized for the greatest likelihood of success, which is grabbing the attention of those scrolling first. So images that appear in your post when you're sharing a link from a page on your website, we like those to be large, right? We also need the page and post title to show up when our link is shared. And that's called a meta title or meta description. There's also descriptive text that shows up when people do a search. So if you just go in and you search for the name of your business in whatever search engine, you're going to see the URL and you're going to see the page title and a short description. And if what's in there is just like a default, it's probably not going to be very helpful. You need to make sure that, hey, if you are a restaurant and you don't just make burritos, you make veggie burritos, then that needs to be in that description. And burritos that taste like meat, or burritos that don't taste like meat but are way better, that kind of thing. And that's what the setup has, that's why this setup is important. So we also have to think about, what are the offline uses? There are so many ways to share content other than on social media, online, clicking or sharing a post, links, and stuff like that. Sometimes people will take a screenshot of a page and text it to someone, or save it for themselves, or text the link to a page. And if you've ever looked at a link that you shared by text with someone, you know that an image pops up with the name and a short description. Usually it's only a line or so. Or they lean over to a friend and they say, oh, look at this, right? Or they'll want to copy and paste specific text from your website onto their notes or in their calendar. We need to keep all these behaviors in mind. And this is where we get back to images. This is why having text on an image, especially restaurant owners, if you're watching, this is where you need to pay special attention. Don't have text on an image. You can, but it is an accessibility issue for those with visual impairment. So we need to consider all users. Who would have to retype everything that's typed on an image, unless we put it in the alt text? Or we can also just place that text that's on that image above, below, to the side of that image, so that no matter who's using it, they can do whatever those activities are I mentioned before, their behaviors, in any way they want. It's super easy. We got to make it easy for them. We don't want any excuses for them to not do business with us or come to our restaurant, right? Often one family member will go pick up a food, some food for the family, right? And everyone's on a different device because everybody wants something different and they want to be able to select their thing, copy and paste it, right? If it's a PDF, that's fine. If you're on a computer, it's not always fine. If you're on a phone, that can become problematic. You're also pinching and, I don't know what the opposite of pinching is, but, squeezing, squeezing and bloating, I don't know. But you're making your users do this a lot more than they need to. If it's just a text menu, they're just scrolling like this, right? So we need to be really thoughtful about the decisions we make on how we display our content. So again, PDF, they're frustrating. They're typically like 8.5 by 11, or at some, this is inches for those in the US, or like the legal size, which is 8.5 by 14. And you're just pinching and squeezing and rotating. It's a mess. You don't want your customers to be doing that, right? So we need to keep in mind the copy and pasting, and we need to make it easy. Are we helping or hurting those with visual impairments, including those who use a screen reader, whether they need it or not? And when it comes to accessibility, there are also standards for fonts. The font size is typically 14 point or greater for websites, minus 16 point as the minimum for body copy, because my clients tend to be over 40 and we have some visual issues. And you also have to think of color and how much contrast there is with that, but that's for another day. So Open Graph, this is another one that Bridget talks about a lot, and I believe she might have mentioned it in her last one, but if not, it is simply something that helps our websites talk to social media. Facebook's metadata controls how your websites and posts look when they're shared. Even on LinkedIn, Facebook is the one that dictates it. Yeah. So websites need to include open graph data, but what is it, right? Well, it's how it's how your websites look when they're shared on social media. You can look it up, do a search, and hard code it. You can use a plugin for those of you on WordPress. You can ask your developer. I use SEO Press, but there's also Yoast, and those have options in there for setting up, again, all the stuff I mentioned before, which was the metadata, how everything shows up. So it's your images, your title, and your short description. So on this one, on the left is LinkedIn, on the right is Twitter. And you can see Bridget's got her Twitter card set to large. And that also means that in the back end of her, or in the WordPress dashboard of her website, we went in and we said, large Twitter card on Yoast, I believe is what she uses. And that makes a difference because you can see the one at the bottom from a law firm. I hid their names, they wouldn't be outed, but obviously they don't have their Twitter card set to large, which means the image is showing up kind of tiny, which it's fine, but it's not the best, right? And I say it's fine because, hey, they do have an image, so it's going to get some attention. But we know the bigger the image, the more likely we're going to get attention. So the more likely they will stop scrolling. All right, website image setup. So the default is typically 1200 by 628. This is for those of you, again, in WordPress, you have a featured image on your page. But when you add something like SEO Press or Yoast or some of the others, you can add a different image for social media. And Dustin Stout, this is my go-to page every time. If I'm not sure what the current sizes are, if they've changed them, I go and I look. He's got these great templates, and the 1920 by 1080, that's the standard width of a screen. So that's what I like to use. And then I keep everything within that square in the middle if I can. It's dustinstout.com, sorry, /social images. All right, so images that appear when you share a link or post from your page, they should fit the max width of your social network's feed. Again, 1200 by 628 pixels is the standard, and that's set by Facebook. So part of the open graph, I think I already mentioned, is how your pages show up in search. So whether it's Brave, Google, Yahoo, Bing, DuckDuckGo, whatever, this is going to influence that. Now, those can display a little differently there, but hey, this is going to give you the most control. You want to have these titles in place and not just the default, because again, people are searching. They need to know what the meat is. You know, that you're going to solve whatever that problem is in the little short description. So you're enticing them to click. All right, so I repeated that one, obviously. All right, so social networking. Since we're talking about social media, that means we're also talking about networking, but we don't think about social media the same way we do about networking. But again, this all ties back to making your website amazing, right? But it spiders off to these other things, and networking is the biggest one. It's the most important. We don't think about social media the same way we do about networking, but we should. There's a lot more dread that professionals have when they think about networking, because we forget all the time that social networks are for being social. They connect us. How deeply we connect with one another is solely dependent on our own efforts. Social networks just facilitate that connection. There's a great book by Kelly Hoey called Build Your Dream Network. I highly recommend it. I got the audiobook and it was great for a drive across the state. She talks about a thing called micro networking, and that's a concept that might be new to you. It was to me at the time, but it really isn't. It's just a term. But the action is not new. It really serves as a reminder on how to be social, personal, and cultivate those reliable and beneficial connections. I don't want to spoil the entire book for you, but I do highly recommend it. Some of the micro networking opportunities that she identified are like sending personal emails, physical greeting cards, note cards, making birthdays and anniversaries, marking them in your calendar or whatever, wherever you're keeping track of that kind of thing. Anything that's significant about them that you learn through your interactions with them when you meet them, whether you work with them, or if you just admire them, so that they know that when you do send those things or make those, those connections with them, that you listened and that you value them. And when they get that email saying that you're excited for them with a screenshot from an article that they're quoted in, they'll feel appreciated. And maybe they didn't even know they were quoted in that. So when they check their email and see a physical, or their regular mail, and they see a physical card from you, that appreciation grows. So all these little things that you can do along the way, they just build on top. And again, I don't want to spoil the book, but I want to make it easy for you to do these things. So these are some notes that I took from the book. So always have a stack of note cards on your desk nearby with envelopes and stamps. Collect mailing addresses when you can. I know that's difficult. I have a coffee mug where I put all the business cards in. And you can make notes in your phone's address book to keep, she wore this beautiful coat that day and I wanted to ask where she got it or something like that. So I don't want to share everything on social media these days because I learned that so little would be private anymore. And so I'm trying to just make notes of things that I see that people are doing in my phone, just so that when I do see them again, or when I see them on social media, I can slip them a private DM or whatever so that it's not all public, but it's just for them. They know that they're special. And that's how you're cultivating the relationship, right? You're doing something that's very special for just them. And you might see me promote the use of email newsletters, just like I have, and lead magnets, but I also will lament on my own inconsistency of writing them because I do take the time as I'm scrolling through social media or in my own inbox, I'm going to the left because that's where it is, to send personal notes to people instead of just posting on social media. Now, testimonials, people need to know that we have really worked with other people and they have really liked what we've done. And there are several ways we can do that. We can collect them ourselves, or we can use an aggregator. There's a plugin for those of you on WordPress that will, bring in all your Google reviews. I do have to say there are pros and cons for both, right? So if we have an aggregator and Google's bringing in all those reviews, it's going to bring in the bad ones too, right? But that's okay because Google actually doesn't like 5-star reviews. It likes the 4.9s, 4.8. So that are in the 4s, right? Because they think if it's a 5.0, come on, nobody's perfect. So it's important to have those that aren't, 5.0. It's okay. And in fact, again, Google prefers it. But the con is that, again, you're going to get those bad ones. You need to, before you do that, have in place a plan for how you're going to handle different reviews. Maybe get a colleague because you both need to work on it. And you can help one another send feedback like, this might be an area where people are likely to complain in your industry because I've seen it before. And you start writing down, okay, these are responses, or go look at your competitors and see, what people have complained about them. And if they've replied, hey, that's great. And then you can just take that and put it in a canned email to save for later. The con against collecting them yourself and putting them up there is people don't know for sure if it's a real client and a real testimonial. But that's also why when you collect them yourself, you ask your client, hey, can I use your photo? They might say no, and that's okay. Then can I use your name and your last initial? Can I link to your website address? Whatever you can get, great, because then they might go, or can I link to your LinkedIn? That's a good one. They might want to go check those people out. Oh, are those people worthy too? You know, that kind of thing. So testimonials are social proof, and it's really, really important. So the last one is consistency. And you might say, well, this isn't really a web element. Oh, but it is. Because our brand is more than just a logo. We have a style that includes our tone of voice, our color palette, fonts, images, and other stylistic elements that identify our brands. And the goal is that once these are identified, we become and remain consistent. And repetition helps to drill that in. So repetition with how we apply them across everything from the website, social media, internal documents, public signage, and presentations. It's all important, it all matters. So if something's branded and you start to recognize it, you recognize it because they've been consistently and repeatedly applying them as they should across everything. So you can see here, Bridget's got a bunch of colors, but she's also got fonts that she's supposed to use, things like that, and a way that she uses them together so that she's creating a brand and a brand experience, because she's also got colors assigned to different topics on her blog. So like red is her tech blog, right? So she's training users, and over time, they're going to start to expect, oh, when I see that red one, I'm a techie, I'm going to click on that. I want to read it. I know it's going to apply to me, right? So these aren't even all logos. Like you can look at the Amazon smile and you recognize that that's Amazon, right? You don't even need their name. That box in the middle, if you don't know that's Tiffany's, well, maybe you're not really into jewelry, but anybody else will know without seeing the name that, hey, that blue box is Tiffany's. And Starbucks doesn't have their name, it just has their mark, right? And that's important. They've ingrained these colors and their style into us, so we don't need their full logo. And speaking of Tiffany's, this is their logo. It's just typeface, and it says elegance, history, luxury. But have you ever seen an employee go rogue? Like, I would call a rogue employee someone who likes to personalize their emails from the company. So if a rogue employee from Tiffany's used this font and color in her email to me, would she be conveying the same elegance, history, and luxury that the Tiffany's brand is supposed to represent? Probably not. So fonts are part of your brand message, and you need to stay on brand, which means staying on message. Cyrus Highsmith says, typography is the detail and presentation of a story. It represents the voice of an atmosphere or historical setting. So for example, if your significant other left you this message, would you be a little creeped out? I know I would be. Like, maybe I need to hire some private security. But if you love this one, okay, I can call the security team. You can stay home, never mind. Because he means it. Because the message matches the font style, and that's important. So here are 7 takeaways, and I'm just under time. Headlines, calls to action, lead magnets, mobile-friendly websites. Set up your website for social. Get those testimonials in whatever way you decide, but get them. And then be consistent with all of your branding. And if you don't have any branding, that's another topic for another day. So who doesn't want more genuine connections? That's what I'd like to know. And lastly, here are a few of the resources that I mentioned. I will type up another document if anybody wants it and send it out to by email with the full list, because I did add some after I did this slide. All right. So I see we have 6 in the chat. Are those all questions? Oh, Todd said, yeah, no PDF menus.
I think you have yeah, Todd is suggesting no PDF menus, and yeah, it doesn't look like there are questions, but it was very clear, very concise, and great presentation, Rhonda. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I had to go in and cut some stuff, but I wanted to make sure you guys
really
got
did.
lots of value from it.
Thank you so much. And I see you put your email in case someone needs to reach you. That's the best contact for you?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions coming up. And so I guess I'm going to thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. And stay tuned for more webinars at greengeeks.com/webinars. And we will see you in the next webinar, and we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch
Great.
with you, Rhonda.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
It was wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rhonda.
Erica.
Thank you, Anna.
Bye,
Everyone.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.